Hello and welcome to The Perspective. Joining me today is CEO of Qooco, Mr. David Topolewski. Mr. David, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Let's get right into it. What is Qooco?
Qooco is a mobile learning platform that's really focused on empowering the many millions of kids in Asia to learn to speak English. We see that as a critical advantage in this global world because it's going to open up so many opportunities for them.
Right, and then why specifically only in Asia?
Well, Asia's it's probably half the world in terms
Right.
of population, maybe even 2/3, I'm not sure. But there's just such an opportunity, and this is Asia-centric. Asia's rising. It's working with the rest of the world, and English is really that communication medium, whether it's with Europe, whether it's with the Americas, whether it's with Africa. So it's a great opportunity.
Right, and then let's talk about Qooco a little bit more. Qooco is a platform, and what it does, it helps children and people learn languages, specifically in English.
English. We also have a Mandarin vertical, but
Okay.
English is our main focus, and this is why we're here in Kuala Lumpur with the Asia Spelling Cup. So we're really focused on English, but it's English as a skill in communication, because as I'm sure you know, there are a lot of students that studied English in Asia, starting
Right.
in Japan in the 80s and Korea in the 90s, but it's not a real skill. It's
Right.
more academic and it's more theoretical. What we're trying to do is provide a skill of communication. People can create business,
Right.
people can create friendships with communication.
Right.
So our focus is really on the speaking.
Right.
And
So it's
listening
more than
skills.
just learning a language.
Yes.
It's more of a communication skill. That's interesting because back in the 20th, 19th century, learning languages wasn't really something that was seen as a successful career or a path to take and when you go for your education.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. And I think what's transformed over the last several decades is just so much globalization. Like this isn't terribly popular in the U.S. right now with much more of a nationalistic approach. But the reality is there's so much good and so many people have been lifted out of poverty through trade
Right.
and globalization. And now there's a lot more trade in services and taking the skills of people, whether it's in Southeast Asia or North Asia, working with people in Europe and America, and this collaboration is going to be hugely powerful.
Right. And it just, do you only target like students? This is a platform for students to come by and start learning English and Mandarin, or does it also cater to other professions?
Well, we have one vertical outside of our education vertical, which is in hospitality. So we're
Okay.
teaching hotel workers English and Mandarin skills because the Chinese now are the largest traveling group in the world,
Right.
and most of them do not speak English yet. So if you're going to create great service or even good service, you need to be able to communicate with your guests. So this is really a critical piece, and this is why we've launched this. And then, of course, English is really the language of tourism.
Right.
Whether you're here in Malaysia or Indonesia or Thailand, most of the guests are going to be speaking English at some level. And so to communicate with them, to deliver great services, this is really empowering to them.
What has the reception been like from the people that has been using your platform, the Qooco platform?
It's been really good. I mean, I think one of the critical things in language learning is frequency of practice and actionable feedback. And if you look at historically, the industry has really been run on a once-a-week system because it's when you're trying to do something daily, you need
Mm-hmm.
convenience, and it's costly if you're trying to use tutors. Now there are a few people that have the ability to afford a tutor that they can have every single day, but we're trying to empower millions and millions of people.
Yeah, because the reality is not everyone has the same kind of access to that to tutor and
access
whatnot.
money, and even if everybody did have the money, getting those native English teachers to be able to do this, it's just completely impractical because you're talking about doing this every single day.
Right.
And so mobile is really the big game changer, and being able to have practice anytime, anywhere. I mean, and literally anytime, anywhere, as long as you've got an internet connection.
Right.
And so this is a game changer, and then the scale, the quality that you get is just. It's going to be very empowering for Southeast Asia, which we're talking 500 million people in this market.
Right. It seems to me that the range of audience or the people that you're targeting ranges from primary and elementary to even people who are already in the workforce. How does the platform cater to such different ages?
Well, the platform is fundamentally the same. What is different is the content. So
Okay.
obviously, for preschool through primary school, there's a certain set of content that we're working with, and whereas you get into the hospitality industry, we're very focused on, okay, this is for housekeeping, this is for food and beverage, this is for bartender, this is for front desk. And in Thailand, we've been experimenting with some retailers, and again, that's very focused. Cosmetics, electronics, and clothing.
Okay.
And so this is really about making them do their jobs better and providing much better service to their customers, because they have a lot of international
Right.
customers coming in, and a lot from China. So some of them are even learning Mandarin.
Right. So it's essentially more than just learning languages. It seems that you're also kind of teaching them a little bit about the industry itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, language is a tool of hospitality. But the key thing is putting smiles on people's faces, and being able to suggest certain things and make recommendations, understand what their needs are, and that's one of I think the beauties about hospitality. It is really about putting smiles on people's faces.
Right. And hospitality. When we talk about hospitality, we're also talking about tourism.
Yes.
And tourism is big. It's huge in Indonesia.
Yes.
Has Qooco seen progress, or has Qooco seen Indonesians use the platform?
Yeah, we actually have quite a few customers, hotel customers in Jakarta and Bali in particular, and we're helping them communicate better with their guests. And one of the big changes, as I'm sure many people in Indonesia have noticed, is that there's a huge influx of Chinese coming
Right.
in. And and the Chinese are great tourists, but you need to be able to communicate to them. So if you're going to offer them a glass of wine, and make the effort to speak their language, even if it's a few words like Ipe Hongzhou, a glass of red wine,
Right.
they really appreciate it. And from a hotel perspective, this will go crazy on social media in China,
Right.
and China is probably the most social media savvy place on earth, and so it's a good investment, and you're going to have repeat business because when you see hotels make the effort and hotel staff make the
Right.
effort to really
There's a
learn
lot
that
of
language.
it makes a big change.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
it just shows a lot more.
Yeah, exactly.
And I also understand that Qooco has a Asia Spelling Bee Cup this year.
Yeah,
and
the
it's
Asia
held here in
Spelling
Kuala
Cup.
Lumpur.
Yes, correct.
All right. Well, we have to go into break, but when we come back from break, we'll talk a little bit more about the event that's happening here on November 12th.
Okay.
Ladies and
fantastic.
gentlemen, stay tuned on The Perspective.